Joe Arridy had always been extremely persuadable. Arridy, a mentally challenged young man with an IQ of 46, could be compelled into saying or doing almost anything. And when the cops coerced him into confessing to a heinous murder he didn't commit, his brief life ended. Arridy was born in Pueblo, Colorado, in 1915 to Mary and Henry Arridy, who were recent immigrants from Syria, then part of the Ottoman Empire, looking for work. They did not speak English. Henry accepted a position with a major steel mill in Pueblo that he learned was hiring. For the first 5 years of his life, Arridy never spoke. After 1 year of elementary school, his principal advised his parents to keep him at home because he was unable to learn. After losing his job a few years later, his father turned to friends for assistance in finding a home for his son. Arridy was admitted to the State Home and Training School for Mental Defectives in Grand Junction, Colorado, at the age of 10, where he lived on and off until he was a young adult. He was frequently mistreated and beaten by his peers in both his neighborhood and at school. He dropped out of school and boarded freight rail cars to escape the city, arriving in the rail yards of Cheyenne, Wyoming, in late August 1936, at the age of 21. On the night of August 15, 1936, Dorothy Drain's parents returned home to find their 15-year-old daughter dead in a pool of her own blood, killed by a blow to the head while she was sleeping. Barbara, her younger sister, had also been hit on the head but had miraculously survived. The attack on the young girls sparked outrage in the community, prompting newspapers to declare that a sex-crazed murderer was on the loose, and putting police on the lookout for any Mexican-looking men who matched the description provided by 2 women who claimed to have been assaulted not far from the Drain house. Sheriff George Carroll must have felt nothing but relief when 21-year-old Joe Arridy, who had been found aimlessly wandering near the local rail yards, confessed to the murders outright. Sheriff Carroll may have realized what these other boys had. Joe Arridy was highly prone to suggestion. Carroll didn't even bother writing down Arridy's confession, and the prosecution even admitted during the trial, "You had to, what we commonly say, pry everything out of him." Carroll's leading questions included asking Arridy if he liked girls, followed by, "If you like girls so well, why do you hurt them?" Arridy's testimony changed quickly depending on who was interrogating him, and he remained unaware of some of the most basic details of the murders until they were told to him, such as the fact that the weapon used had been an axe. Everyone involved should have known that Joe Arridy was not guilty, and that another man was. Frank Aguilar, a Mexican man who was found guilty of the murders and executed after being identified by Barbara Drain, appears to be the most likely perpetrator. All of this occurred while Arridy was still being held for the murders, but local law enforcement was convinced that Aguilar and Arridy were co-conspirators. In any case, Aguilar's execution does not appear to have quenched public outrage in Pueblo. Despite the fact that 3 psychiatrists who testified at Arridy's trial declared him mentally disabled with an IQ of 46, Arridy was found guilty and sentenced to death. Joe Arridy's defense was based on the fact that he was not legally sane and thus, incapable of distinguishing between right and wrong and hence, would be unable to perform any action with a criminal intent. Because Arridy reportedly struggled to explain simple concepts like the difference between a stone and an egg, it's easy to assume he wouldn't know right from wrong. It also appears, perhaps fortunately, that he had a complete lack of understanding of the concept of death. According to prison warden Roy Best, Joe Arridy is the happiest man who has ever lived on death row, and when informed of his impending execution, Arridy seemed much more interested in his toy trains. Arridy requested ice cream for his last meal when asked what he wanted. He was then led to the gas chamber. He grinned as the guards strapped him into the chair. Although Warden Best is said to have cried in the chamber, his execution was relatively quick. Believe me when I say that if he is gassed, it will take a long time for the state of Colorado to live down the disgrace. Gail Ireland, the attorney who had petitioned the Colorado Supreme Court on Arridy's behalf, had written during the case. Colorado Governor Bill Ritter granted Joe Arridy a posthumous pardon in 2011, more than 7 decades after his execution, stating, Arridy's pardon will not undo this tragic event in Colorado history. However, it is in the interests of justice and common decency to restore his good name. Thanks for watching and take care.